Did you know that a whole lot of moms struggle with not knowing how to feel when they find out they're pregnant? Like a lot of moms. In fact, I would venture to say that you struggled with it too. You may have been happy overall, but at the surface, all the unknowns had you not really knowing what to think or feel. I know this is common, but I also know that nobody talks about it. So, what do I do when I find a topic that nobody talks about? I talk about it. So come on and dive in with me. Even if this doesn't impact you directly, it will impact somebody else that you know. And knowing these things is going to help you help somebody else. Let's go. Review time. This week's review comes from my coach, Chris. The headline says, "You have got to listen to this. So thankful a friend sent this to me. Pregnant with my third now and having some negative news in an ultrasound, and this podcast has strengthened my faith and confidence in my body to birth. Thank you from the bottom of my heart." Thank you, I guess, my coach Chris, if that's the correct name or if I said that correctly. I appreciate so much you taking the time to encourage me today. And again, as I ask you each week, if you have not already left me a review over on Apple Podcasts, please head over there. It takes like 30 seconds. Just leave me a quick 5-star written review. It helps me so much. And most of all, it helps me find other moms like you who are searching for this type of information. Okay, so today I want to talk to you about not knowing how to feel. More than half, and I'd say it's a whole lot more than half of women have feelings of what's called ambivalence when they find out they're pregnant. What is ambivalence? Well, it's that back and forth feeling of just not knowing what to think. Whether the pregnancy was planned or not, whether it's wanted or not, whether it's the person struggled with fertility or not, even. A large portion of women have some emotions that they just don't expect when they see that little pink line pop up. I want to address this topic because I think there's a silent guilt that a lot of women go through with this. And they feel this guilt when they feel like they don't think they should feel, if that makes sense. They feel like they're supposed to be just overjoyed, and yet they're kind of, they don't really know what to think. Especially, this is feeling can especially happen for moms who are close to somebody who desperately wants to be pregnant and it's just not happening for whatever reason. There's this guilt that almost like they shouldn't feel happy because they have something that somebody else wants so badly. And then that guilt sets in too because they're not really sure what they think about it. It's just this, it can be a very heavy, guilty, back and forth feeling. You can often feel like you should be happier, like there's something wrong with you. You've done something wrong. And meanwhile, you're scared or you're sad or you're unsure or you're worried. You're just feeling all these things. And so, where do these feelings come from? Well, they come from our human side, obviously. And they also come from the world's subconscious influence telling us that we can't do this. Things like, maybe we feel like we don't have enough money, or we don't have enough support, or we're too old, or we're too young. We didn't want more babies. Now's not a good time. It doesn't fit with our current goals. We're just not ready. We're worried what other people will think. Maybe something else you're feeling that I didn't list here. There's so many things that you can be feeling. So no matter what you feel, when your thoughts drift to what you know it's true that children are a blessing, it is so easy to feel guilty for feeling what you feel. So I want to validate you here today. And I also want to help you not stay stuck in this because while these feelings of ambivalence are normal in the beginning, I don't want you to stay there. And I don't want you to lose the joy of pregnancy, no matter the situation that you find yourself in. So, what do you do if you have these ambivalent feelings and they don't pass with some time? Let's talk about some things that you can do that you should do. First of all, you need to take some time. You got to process the news, process the change, sleep some before you start telling everybody. Things make more sense with time and sleep. Okay? You can just think better and understand that this is normal. Having a baby, y'all, it is a huge change, even for the most prepared. Even if you've got everything together and all your ducks are in a row, you still are facing a huge change. We have these back and forth feelings because our brains are trying to figure out what next? What do I do now? We see all the bad at first because that's just kind of how we tend to do. And then we see all the good. And then eventually, usually, you'll settle somewhere in the middle, balancing it all out, knowing, hey, we're going to be okay. We can move forward. Pregnancy is just like any change in life. It's just that it's a huge one and it's a big, life changing, impactful change. And so to feel these ups and to feel these downs is normal and it's going to happen. And they may last a while, and that's okay. But we don't want to stay there. Something else you can do if you feel yourself staying there. So we said you need to take some time and understand it's normal. But something that you can do that's actionable to help you with this is to write down and talk out your feelings, or write down your feelings or talk out your feelings, or maybe both. Seeing things on paper for a lot of people is a very quantifiable way to help you sort through thoughts and the reality of what's really going on. When you can see it in writing, it just helps you to process it better. It can be very therapeutic. There's a whole lot of people who really love to journal and do this kind of a thing to help them think through in a more clear, slower way. But if you're not much of a writer, that's okay too. Maybe call a trusted friend who you know will keep your news in confidence until you're ready to share, but will help you through what you're feeling by being just a good listener. The next thing I want you to do is to embrace that joy. Okay? Embrace the joy. And when I say embrace it, I don't mean just forget what you're feeling like, okay, I'm happy now. No, that's not what I'm saying. Even if you sort through it all, and even if you write it all down, you might still feel more negative than positive. And this is where I ask you to choose joy, because it's a choice. And it's not always an easy choice, but it is a choice. In the book of Philippians, chapter 4, verses 11 and 12, the Bible reads, "Not that I speak in regard to need, for I have learned in whatever state I'm in to be content. I know how to be abased, and I know how to abound. Everywhere and in all things I have learned both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need." He's telling us that it didn't really matter. And by the way, this is being written by somebody in prison, okay? He's not just, living in the lap of luxury. He's going through a major trial here. And it doesn't matter how he finds himself at this point in his life. He's learned to be content. He's learned to choose joy. And it's not always easy. Sometimes you just have to remind yourself that you can choose to be happy even if things don't seem to lend themselves to happiness. Now, I saw a meme a few weeks ago. We had some snow coming, and I'm not trying to reduce your feelings. If you're the person that's really struggling with this, please understand, I'm not trying to reduce your feelings to how you would feel about a weather event. That's not it. But I think this illustration is going to help. And I know I butchered this when I tried to write down what the meme said. I couldn't find it, and I can't remember exactly verbatim what it said, so forgive me. But it said something like, when you hear we're going to have 8 inches of snow, you can be happy about it or you can dread it, but you're still going to get 8 inches of snow. You just won't have the joy. And it reminded me of, how kids feel when snow's coming. They get so excited, and yet us adults are kind of like, oh no, I got to deal with the snow, right? It's coming either way. Are you going to be happy about it? Are you going to go on the downside, on the more Eeyore side of life? When you hear a baby is coming, you can choose to dread it or you can choose to be joyful, but the end result is the same. The baby is coming. Now, if you're in a deep rut and you're like, oh yeah, she's just making this so simple, it sounds so easy, I don't want you to think that you can just pull yourself out of it on your own. Just stick with me. I'm going to come back to this in just a second. I'm not leaving you here. I'm not just telling you to just get over it. Sometimes things are big and we need a little help, but I just want to drop that off. Don't leave me. I'm going to get back to it, okay? Another thing that you can do, remember, we're in the list of the things that you can do that I want you to do when you find yourself in this ambivalence. You can start to educate and prepare yourself. Some of these feelings that we have when we find out that we're expecting a baby come from the fear of the unknown that our world has built in around pregnancy these days. Gone are the days of embracing our female intuition because it has been replaced by a mainstream narrative of reliance on a system that treats you like you're a disease or an accident waiting to happen. To remove this, you will need to start the process of replacing that doubt with knowledge and wisdom. And the best place you can get that is through my course, which is called the Your Birth God's Way online Christian childbirth education course. And that's a big old long name. I know that. But it's a big old course and it leaves no stone unturned, and it will remove your doubt and replace it with joy because you're going to own your pregnancy instead of it owning you. And by the way, if you haven't heard, if you're not on my email list and you didn't get the email or you haven't been to my website, you can actually try my course for free for a limited time. If you go to go.yourbirthgodsway.com/course free trial, you'll get to watch module 1 totally for free for 7 days. And you don't even have to enter your credit card or anything, like totally free, no obligation. And I want you to go try it out because, especially in that first lesson, you're really going to see how the Word of God gives us all kinds of guidance and how to lean into Him and trust Him and to let go of your fears so that you can experience the joy He intends for us to have as His daughters. And if you can't do those things, if you can't find ways to embrace the joy, if you can't write down your feelings, or maybe you find that doesn't help, or if you can't take the time and understand it's normal, if you're just really struggling with this, I want you to seek out some help. And I know sometimes people feel like seeking help is weakness. I want you to know it's strength because you're strong enough to recognize that you need a little help and you're not too proud to acknowledge it. There are counselors who know how to talk with you in a way that will help you process what you're feeling in a healthy way. You do not need to wallow in guilt or worry or any other negative feeling. If you don't feel yourself leaning into joy with your pregnancy after a few weeks, please seek out some help. Ask in local groups around you. People know people. People know where to go look for the help. And by the way, don't assume that it's more than you can afford. I know of one counselor near me who charges just $45 a session for moms who are paying out of pocket. $45 for an hour of time from someone who can get you some real traction on feeling better is well worth the money. Or sometimes you can find people in your church who have been trained in counseling and they can help you. There's resources out there. What I'm trying to say is I don't want you to go through this alone. There's even the Midwife and Me Power Hours. You can reach out to me if you can't find any of those. There's always that option to get a little help. I just don't want you to walk through it alone if you are feeling stuck. Now, what do I not want you to do? What you don't want to do if you're feeling these feelings of ambivalence? I said this already, but I don't want you to deal with it alone, where nobody can love on you and help you if you're not feeling yourself coming out of it. I don't want you to do that. What else do you not do? Well, you don't consider not continuing the pregnancy. Your choice in this process happened when you had sex. And I know most of my audience is Christian mamas. I get that. But that does not make us immune to that feeling that we can have if we find ourselves in a hard situation, whether it's marital problems or financial problems, or maybe you're planning to move or you've got work problems. Whatever it is, your choice has already been made. And while you can work through the feelings that you're having, that baby has no choice. And your job is to protect it and nourish it now. If you made what you see to be a mistake, know that God was there in the moment of conception, and He allowed that baby to be created no matter the circumstances. That life deserves to live just like you did. And know that no matter how ultimately happy, this is a hard one sometimes to think about, no matter how ultimately happy your mom might have been when she found out that you were coming, there's still a pretty good chance she had some of the same feelings you're having right now. But she chose you. And she chose to put your needs first, and she supported your life. And that's what we women must do when we get this news, even when it's hard. And if you're hearing this and thinking, yeah, I can't do that, go back to what I said just a few minutes ago. Get some help to help you embrace this, because that baby is counting on you to protect it. This isn't easy, y'all. I know that. The feelings of ambivalence are real, no matter how much you are wanting a pregnancy. And they're even harder if you're not wanting it. So I want you to embrace this in a healthy way so that you can process through these feelings and come out on the other side enjoying a beautiful time that God gave you, embracing it, looking at all the happy things that you can have, even if it's hard, because you will look back and miss it, believe it or not. You may hate pregnancy, you may hate being pregnant, but there's not really anything else in life I can think of that is more cool than growing a child inside of you. Half the population doesn't get to experience it, that half being men. And then there's a lot of women who don't also. But for those of us who have been blessed to have that little pink line pop up, it is a blessing. And if you are struggling with feeling that blessing and you are struggling with seeing that blessing through all the fog and the ups and downs and not really knowing what to feel, know that there's help out there. So reach out, get some help. Don't do it alone. I don't want you to lose this joy. I want you to embrace it, and I want you to get to the happy side, to the joyful side, despite the circumstances. I want you to do what we read about in Philippians, to no matter what circumstance you find yourself in, to be content. Where do you find that contentment? In God's word. More like what I talked about last week. That's where the contentment comes from. Learning more about Him, knowing how much He loves you and how much He's done and how much He went through just for you. I hope this has helped you. If you have questions, feel free to reach out, and I will see you back here next week.